What's up, crew? Just Larry here. I'm here with my friend and client, Oliver El Gore. Hopefully, I'm not messing that up, brother. But
Nailed it.
I really wanted to just spend this time today because it's really important to understand both the trials, the tribulations, and the achievements and accomplishments of my friend here, Oliver, and spend the next, 20, 30 minutes kind of interviewing Oliver here of his work with me, both ups and the downs, and just go from there. But that being said, Oliver, why don't you tell the people here who are watching this who you are, your story, who you serve, and what you're all about?
So, yeah, Oliver L. Gore, you got the pronunciation right.
There you go.
From the UK, I run a financial publishing company called Freeman Publications. We primarily serve people 20 years older than me, which is a weird space to be in. We help individual investors put their money in the right places, invest for retirement, help them through retirement as well, and really just ensure that they can self-manage their money because no one's going to care more about your money than you do.
Love that, man. And what you do is such an awesome part of the market, right? Like you're really serving people at a high level. And I know how great you are when it comes to serving clients. But I guess what I'm really curious about, and for anyone who's watching this, is what was kind of the business and your personal life looking like before we started getting to work together on a more intimate, basis? What were some of the things you tried? What was some of the challenges and issues that you were facing?
So the business, before we started working together, we were about 3.5 years in,
Right.
and my market is very cyclical in that when the stock market's running up and everyone's got free stimmy checks,
Right.
a lot of the things we sell are pretty easy sells. But as we got through 2022, big market downturn, get into 2023, and you and I have talked this a lot, market maturity, increased degrees of skepticism, people have been burnt.
Oh, man.
Not everyone wants to jump on a free strategy session. We were having real difficulties in consistently putting people into our programs.
Mm.
And I tried for 18 months to avoid any kind of sales training. I was like, okay, you know what? We'll just do a webinar.
Right.
I saw I will just do DM closing. I did anything to avoid actually just doing calls with people. And by the time it got around to actually, forcing myself to do them, oh, it was a horrible experience. I did not look forward to the calls. I would actively get on sales calls, be waiting for the person to show up and be hoping they wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
I would genuinely hope they wouldn't show up because at least then I would have the excuse of, oh, they didn't show up, rather than actually just going through the process and trying to get better at this thing. And we got to a head towards the end of the last year where it was like, well, it's now or never,
Mm.
because unless I get good at this, it's going to be a struggle to have a business in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, man. And one of the things that I still remember from our initial conversation when we were still talking about possibly working together was you literally said, I hate sales calls.
I
Like
hated them.
you hated them,
I hated
right?
them.
And we went from a place of like, okay, cool. You hate them, but you knew you had to do something, which was I just gotta applaud you. I think it's such speaks so much to like your coachability and your openness to learn something, right? For anyone who doesn't know Oliver, like I always say that Oliver is been one of my favorite clients because he's the most coachable person. He just gets something and then implements it, right? And I think that's why initially that there was such that uh I saw it as rapid growth, but talk to a little bit about where you were from a numbers and revenue standpoint before we started working together, and then what it looked like after.
We would have some months where we would do zero back end sales. So we would literally bring in zero cash on the back end. Sometimes we, do a promotion. I'd pull 20 or 30,000 out of my ass. But it was so inconsistent that I
Mm,
don't even want to say, oh, we were at X number. Because some months it would be 30, some months it would be zero.
yeah.
Like we probably average 10 or 15 consistently, but it's one thing to average 10 or 15 like clockwork and you can rely on it. It's another to literally get to the first of the month and be like, I don't know where any sales are coming from.
Yeah. Right, man.
It's all coming back now. Actually, it's kind of like the
Yeah.
anxiety is coming back because I look at my Stripe dashboard all the time, and I look at before we started working together, and we would literally have months where it'd be zero.
Yeah.
And I did like I don't even know how I did it, but obviously I reached out to you because I was like, there's no abundance. There's no shortage of sales trainers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no shortage of sales training material, but so much of it, and especially as an entrepreneur, you get on sales calls yourself to potentially enroll in programs.
Right.
And so much of the time I was like, this is a horrible experience.
Yeah,
I
man.
do not want to be this person. I do not want to be essentially gaslighting prospects into working with me.
Exactly.
I don't want to do horrible manipulative crap and lie about prices and lie about how many spaces are left. And it got to the point where I was like, is that what it's going to take? Am I going to have to sell my soul to grow this business? And then I discovered some of your stuff. I was like, oh, hey, this guy is like not a dickhead,
I
which is
appreciate
I think a
that.
technical term. But it's true because it's like, okay, this guy is clearly, you know, good at what he does, but without being, the pushy bro salesman
Mm.
that I think a lot of us have become conditioned to believe is the only way forward.
Yeah, man. So going from a place where it was like you said, right? Like the biggest issue with a lot of coaches in this space and consultants is the up and down income revenue roller coaster, right? So it was some months it was 30, some months it was zero. We're averaging 10 to 15K. And if you may, you don't have to, but what did you bring in this past month? What was the revenue that you brought in for the business?
So it's the 29th today, and we're at 61,650 cash this month.
Let's go. So I mean,
So
man, let me just give you like a round of applause on that because what used to be normal was like the 10 to 15K. And we always talked about this, like right raising your floor.
yeah,
And for you to go from 10 to 15K to now, the new normal is that 50, 60K in cash per month. Like, how do you personally feel as, not just obviously, we talked about, as a business owner, but how do you feel like this has kind of been affecting your mindset just as a human being that's pursuing growth and as someone else who's, you know, obviously not just providing for himself, but obviously a team here, right? How's that kind of been affecting you?
it gives you a lot more confidence because it allows you to take risks. Because fundamentally in business, all you have to do is take risks
Right.
to succeed. Like starting a business in itself is a risk. And so it allows you to explore new options. You know, let's say, for example, we're doing a low ticket funnel right now. That's probably cost us 10 or 15,000 in investment.
Mm,
Having a cash cushion like that, you can hire good people, you can have a team. Like we have 5 people on payroll right now, which
beautiful, man.
is really fucking cool
Yeah.
because it's like, oh wow, I don't have to do everything.
Yes.
Because, as a business owner, that sort of you get in that horrible stage where there's a little bit of growth, but there's not enough that you can hire anyone decent. And so you just get so burned out. And now it's like we break through that plateau. You can have good people around you. You can afford to pursue other growth opportunities that don't necessarily involve you slamming 70 hours a week.
Yes.
Because, having done that, yes, it's necessary at points, but it's not sustainable by any means.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's it. I still remember whenever one of our calls together where we were literally just talking about values and long-term vision. And we had like both discovered it's like, man, we both have a lot of similar values when it comes to thinking long-term sustainability. It's like no wonder it ended up working well. But I bring that up because one of the important phases that Oliver went through, and I think is an expectation that needs to be set, is he went from a person that was taking 100% of the sales calls to, like he mentioned right there, we started actually working towards, hey, initially it was just one-on-one sales coaching that just helped you get better at sales. But then it really transitioned into the next phase, which was building a team under you so you didn't have to do everything yourself, right? Tell us a little bit about how that experience was for you and kind of making that transformation going from your own sales rep kind of stuck inside of your business to now stepping into an actual leader into that sales team. Tell us kind of about that experience for you.
I remember it was March of this year where I sent you a message because I was on vacation for 2 weeks. And I
Yeah.
remember saying to you, this is the first time ever I've gone on vacation and the business has made money. And that was so liberating. Because before, I'd always look at vacations as lost income,
Yeah.
which is a horrible mindset to have. Because you end up never wanting to take vacations. You end up never wanting to do anything. And also just having the confidence to bring people on under you and acknowledging that it's going to be a process.
Right.
Because a lot of the time, you think that an outside sales rep is the golden ticket to overnight riches. And the fact of the matter is, that's generally not the case
Right.
unless you yourself have the skills. Because how are you supposed to audit their conversations? How are you supposed to train them in any way? How are you supposed to set expectations with them? And sometimes, you bring people on that ends up being the tail wagging the dog because you're essentially like, oh yeah, you're the expert. I'll just adhere to whatever you say. But you don't know if their values are aligned. And it's like when we went through the hiring process, it was a values first hiring process,
Right.
not just who have you closed for, how many times do you say high ticket closer in your bio. It's like you can make good long-term decisions because
Exactly.
as you've run sales teams before, hiring is a pretty exhausting process.
It is. It's one of the most exhausting, man.
So you want to make sure you do it right. And I think one of the biggest things that we did together and I learned from you is doing it right from day one
Yes.
and not being short-sighted and just saying, oh yeah, I need a closer. Oh yeah, you can do it. Okay, good. Bye. Get on the phones tomorrow.
Yeah,
Because at the
man.
end of the day, like these people are representing you and your business. They are someone's interaction with them reflects on you.
Right.
And the way the space is going, we're moving away from this like ultra high pressure one call close scenario. There are going to be times where people come back for a second call, maybe even a third call. There are going to be times where people may go away for 6 months, but if they had a good experience initially, they will come back. We had someone the other day. I first had a call with him 9 months ago. I
Long
told
term.
him, no, you're
Let's
not
go.
ready.
Yeah.
We had a second call. I said, you're still not ready, mate. Then he reached out to me again a couple of weeks ago. He told me the situation, told me what's changed. I was like, okay, you are ready now.
Boom.
But if we had tried to do the bro sales approach from day one, whether it's me, whether it's a rep, it's not going to work. And it
Yeah.
just having that long-term vision, and I think that's something that you're so good at as a trainer is helping business owners understand what it is that they really want, not just I want to make 100K by tomorrow so I can, rent the Lambo, go to Dubai, and whatever else it is people do these days.
Right. And I think that's the most important thing, man, is like you said, that the long-term vision of it all, because, you know, I I agree with you. Like we live in this like microwave marketing world, right? Where everyone's like, hey, get in 90 days, get to like 50, 60, 70K per month and have your sales team take over for you. But you realize, and having helped multiple sales teams, I realized that's just not the reality of it.
Yeah.
it takes time to not just build a sales team and build the right sales systems. And, we work through like helping hire and place the closers on the team and helping train them and getting the right infrastructure in place. But a lot of our work together was also just getting you ready to step into that leadership, right? Because it is a gap. It is a huge gap to jump from just being someone who is maybe, decent at sales to then getting good at sales, then becoming a great sales leader, which are three different levels that you went through as, we worked over or worked together the past couple months, right? And that being said, like, what do you feel like when we think back to the past several months that we've been working together, right? What do you feel like has been the most valuable aspects of working together, and why it's most importantly mattered to you?
So there's two. Can I cheat and say two?
Yeah, of course, man.
So on a pure, tactical sales perspective, understanding the discovery process at a deeper level and understanding that everything comes from that.
Mm,
Because, because I don't have a sales background at all.
right.
You're in quick fix mode. What do I say to this objection? What's the best way to close someone? But none of that matters if you don't actually understand what the person wants and what it is they're going through right now. Understanding how to probe without being annoying.
Yeah.
Understanding how to get the real answer behind the smoke screens. So on a tactical level, that for sure. Then on a deeper level, because we've been doing this a lot in the past sort of month or so, is just understanding the relationship between marketing and sales. Because a lot of the time they're almost opposing forces.
Yes.
Like we always joke about, like the closer blames the setter blames the closer.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, okay, what's the bigger picture behind this? Like, okay, what kind of content are we putting out? What channel are we putting the content out on? Does that even align with what we're trying to do within the actual program? Are we even getting the right people on the phone? And having that deeper understanding at a whole business level, that's been invaluable.
Man, man. And I think what was super interesting about kind of the thing that I really found it easy to work with you is you could see the big picture and zoom out, right? And I often find that when you can have that holistic approach to your business, that's where even everything starts coming together, right? Like, one of the things that was beautiful to just watch you grow into was you didn't just become a better salesperson. Like, you started to really show up as a leader, not just in your sales team, but also like in client delivery, in operations, admin. Like, that's why I always say sales is leadership, is because when you get better at sales, you just become a better leader. Talk through a little bit about how you've seen it impact other areas of your business, and most importantly, the growth there.
It's so true because there would be times where, if I was in a slump personally beforehand, I would literally just not go on the company Slack. I would literally ignore it for like days at a time
Right.
because I would just expect there to be bad news, even though I had no logical reason to expect that. But like if we were in a sales slump, that would be it. But taking it from a deeper level and understanding that if you are the leader of the business, you have to show up no matter what. That means showing up for your team, for your clients, and for yourself, more importantly than anything else. And so taking on that elevated role and being more proactive in all areas of the business, like seeing if team members are doing all right. Let's say we haven't
Yes.
had any calls booked today. Are they doing okay? Do they understand that, that might just be an anomaly? Some days you just don't get calls booked.
Yeah.
You know, just being that, confidant almost. And especially
Confident.
with what I do, like, the market goes up 57% of the time and it goes down 43% of the time. So 43% of the time I have stressed clients.
Yeah.
And so it's like being able to show up for them being, simply, guys, this is part of the process. You have to acknowledge that. Otherwise we can't be here.
Yeah.
It's the same with, being a sales leader. You know what? Sometimes you're going to have 5 calls in a row and you're going to have just crappy prospects, or you're not going to do a good job, and that's just life.
Yep. That's
So
just
you've got to
life.
divorce yourself from the outcome, because if you don't, you're not going to have a very good time here. If all you can do is like be on a high when you're winning, then you're just going to crash on the other side.
Right. That's what we talk about, right? There's obviously a lot of ups and downs going from that 10 to 15K to that eventual 60K this past month, right? Like it was honestly, it wasn't like happening in 60, 90 days. But the beautiful part about working with you is you were able to trust the process, right? Detach from the outcome, like you said, and attachment instead of the process that you know it works. And now you got an awesome sales team behind you. You're showing up as leader, man. It's been a pleasure working with you and continuing to work with you. That being said, what's next, man? What are you most looking forward to in terms of like goals and achievements? Like, what are you most looking forward to? And it could be some personal stuff too.
I think the biggest thing is having a baseline level of consistency in the business where it's like I can look at the first of the month and be like, you know what, even if this is an awful month, we're still fine.
Yeah.
Because our worst month this year, because I looked this up before, our worst month this year would have been our third best month in 2023.
Wow.
So, having that baseline alone is, once again, it just gives you breathing room. It allows me to take a step back and, focusing on the bigger picture of the business rather than being so deep in one particular area that you're not really a business owner at that point. You really are just a glorified employee again.
Mm,
So that's what, I'm most looking forward to. I've had a lot of changes in my life the past 12 months. I've become a dad,
yeah, that's right.
which is sick. 10 out of 10 fatherhood would recommend.
Let's go.
But like, being able to be more present for the family as well. Because ultimately, like, if you can't do that, like, what's the point of any of this?
Exactly, man.
Like, your Stripe account isn't going to love you back.
Damn straight. That's right. Retweet that, bro. That's good. Dang. All right.
You can have that for free.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll have to at you. That being said, man, I think the only last thing that I think for anyone who's watching this, if they're possibly considering, working with me or just even getting to learn more about my world and what you got done, what we've done together, what would you say to someone who might be on the fence or is considering working with me?
I don't know why anyone wouldn't do it because you are one of one. I've never met anyone with the depth of understanding from a pure sales perspective, but from a holistic business growth perspective as well.
Mm,
And also who just does things the right way. You know, you've never missed a call. You've never rescheduled without giving me like 4 days notice. It's the little things as well. You've never
right.
not answered one of my questions. And I know people are like, well, that's pretty low level. You would be shocked. You would be shocked when it comes to service delivery and what people think they can get away with.
Mm,
And ultimately, finding someone who does exactly what they say they're going to do is increasingly rare, not just in this space, but I just think in society as a whole.
right.
And it's like, what? Yeah, why would you not do it? You must really hate money if you don't want to do that, because I don't know, man. I don't
Love that,
know.
brother. Thank you, man. Well, hey, Oliver, it's been a pleasure, obviously, you having shared your story. And also it's guys, like Oliver is one of my favorite people in the world to work with because I can't take credit for like most of this because he's also just a really quick implementer and highly coachable, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is just like I know my process works. I've done this process hundreds of times, but I also need people to come in partnership with me to execute on that well. My favorite thing about it was like we would do a call review or we would have a leadership call and be like, hey, you need to do this. Within like 24 to 48 hours, you'd be like, hey, just apply that, got a piff. Right. So it's really about obviously you're coachable and you just the speed of execution is what I credit a lot of like your success to. So again, thank you for being an amazing client. Thank you for sharing your story here today, man. Any last minute words to anyone watching this before we end today's chat?
Just use more sensei metaphors in your marketing because it works.
I got to, man. I gotta get you a samurai sword one day. That's the thing. I gotta ship it
That's what
over.
I want. That's what I mean. Phallic objects, man. Can't beat
Yeah,
them.
there you go.
How else is a man supposed to display his worth
Besides the swords, right? I got to get
besides the
trained
swords?
there so I could bring it around New York City and just in case I need it for the dangers around here in Gotham City. That being said, y'all, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Oliver, thank you again for your time, and I'll see you
Appreciate
guys
it.
next time. Cheers.